Hello YouTube and Patreon, this is Nathan P. Butler, and this is our project update for the month of September 2018. Now, you might find that I'm talking a little bit lower, and I'm going to try to go a little bit faster this time, because we have a special guest that you'll be able to meet here at the end of the episode. Anyway, so, first off, let me thank you all who are supporters of my Patreon. If you're just a subscriber to the channel or just happen to stop by, thank you as well. But I do want to make sure to thank all of our Patreons by name. Part of the Patreon process at patreon.com/NathanPButler is that if you are a Patreon, you wind up with your name in the thanks as part of the credits of these episodes, along with on a special thanks page in the next edition of A Saga on Home Video, a fan's guide to U.S. Star Wars home video releases, when that releases sometime in the future, sometime in the next couple of years or so. But since we do have the time, a lot of times I try to say thank you to all the patrons, the Patreon supporters up front here. So let's start off with the Travelers Through the Butlerverse, that $1 and up tier. Those include Ben P. Stein, Thomas Myers, Martin Dahl, Austin Pierce, Jeremiah Mustard, and S.W. Chris. Then we have the Denizens of the Butlerverse. This is the $5 and up tier, which unlocks those Patreon-exclusive audio commentaries that I produce, primarily for the Clone Wars right now, but also for Forces of Destiny and more stuff eventually coming from Star Wars. For the Denizens of the Butlerverse, we have Jared Rasher, Jeff Ellis, Joey Zitzman, Stephen M., Sam Howard, Chris Morgan, Robert Medina, Bobby Craig, and Jason Hunt. And then finally, we have our Nobility of the Butlerverse, who are the $10 and up tier, who also get access to those exclusive Q&A videos each month. I'll be making the one for next month, sometime early in October. Those include Brian Snook, David Ray, Gary Sherwood, Benjamin Handelman, Andrew Bettis, and Aaron Melzak. So thank you all for being backers of the Patreon. Speaking of the Patreon, let's dive straight into what has been released since the last time we had one of these updates. If you're hearing some kind of squeaking going on, that's our special guest. On Patreon, for those who are part of that top tier, that Nobility of the Butlerverse tier, we did have a Q&A released for this month. We didn't actually have any questions submitted, so I did a random roll of a dice, or of a die, to go through a list of questions and select one. So we wound up with a question about me and being a sports fan, which is very off-topic compared to many of the other questions that we've gotten for that Q&A, but kind of an interesting, unusual Q&A that maybe went into some stuff that you haven't thought about before in context of me at all. We also, of course, for the Denizens and on up tier, we had those two audio commentaries released for the month of September. On September 1st, it was Innocence of Ryloth, and then we finished that out on September 15th, with Liberty on Ryloth. I have already recorded the ones for October. They are edited, they are scheduled and ready to go. Those are going to be Holocron Heist and Cargo of Doom because they are in chronological order, so expect those on October 1st and October 15th. There's nothing to talk about for the Star Wars Timeline Gold because, again, it is done, but if you missed it, the final edition of the Star Wars Timeline Gold is available on StarWarsFanWorks.com/timeline now. Moving on into podcasts, no new episodes of Star Wars Beyond the Films. It's just been a little too busy on my end and Mark's end, so the newest one is still the one back in July. We do intend to record sometime in the near future, now that Mark has finished reading Thrawn Alliances, so that'll probably be the next topic that we cover, but I can't really say exactly whether that's going to be October or when, but we're certainly going to be shooting for something sooner rather than later, since our last episode was, I believe, back in July. However, right around the time that we were doing that last update episode, I had a chance to record with Michael Morris for Cloud City Casino, the Star Wars gaming podcast, also at StarWarsReport.com, just like Star Wars Beyond the Films, where we talked about the kind of seminal and terrible video game Masters of Terras Kasi, to try to give it its due in a retrospective, looking back on the game so many years later, which made for kind of a fun episode, and that was finally released on September 11. It is Cloud City Casino, episode number 84. Again, you can find it on StarWarsReport.com, looking almost exclusively at nothing but Masters of Terras Kasi, with some interesting insights looking back on it, having replayed it recently, and it winds up with an unintentional musical parody. You know that sometimes I just kind of break into song, particularly when I was doing Republic Forces Radio Network and Rebels Roundtable. I would just kind of sing something. Eventually it wound up with that audio parody of Dirt Off Your Tunic that was basically Dirt Off Your Shoulder by Jay-Z, redone with me doing it as basically Dooku speaking. But interestingly enough, at one point in this episode, when talking about fighting games, I made what I thought was the obvious joke, which was Terras Kasi, like you would expect for Mortal Kombat, right? And Michael decided to take that along with clips from the game, and actually make a song out of it. So the end credits, if you want to call that, the end music of the episode, instead of being our normal music, it's that unintentional use of my line, because he said, "It matches the cadence perfectly, let's see what I can do with it," and he turned it into a song. So, there you go. Whatever, if you're familiar with the Mortal Kombat song, it does tend to name the characters, so it's kind of interesting that we have one where, of course, that name that shall not be mentioned from Masters of Terrascasi, because it's idiotic, winds up on that list and is unintentionally funny every single time. Alright, beyond that, this was a month where what little I was able to get out was through YouTube, and we'll talk about why it wasn't all that much momentarily, though many of you, I'm sure, already know, because you connect with me on Facebook and elsewhere. So, primarily the stuff that was released on YouTube this time was Fantasy Flight Games material, reviews, overviews, product descriptions, that sort of thing. Not much at all outside of really the Q&A and the most recent project update in terms of videos produced like this. That should become more frequent soon, hopefully by at least about the end of October. I do still have stuff from the Star Wars Home Video Library we haven't looked at. Like right now, I've got the first couple seasons of individual releases now of the Clone Wars. We've got that Japanese Clone Wars up there you can kind of barely see. Pretty soon I'll have the Last Jedi One Click Blue fan set. And of course, this is the day before Solo Day. My Disney Movie Club version wound up showing up in the mail a day early, and at midnight tonight, I'll be running out to Walmart to get what is supposedly a Walmart exclusive, plus the regular 4K and the, regular 4K and DVD copies, and everything else is either on the way to me in the mail or is doing a store pickup tomorrow from a pre-order. So, hopefully we'll have an episode on Solo soon, but I mean, we got stuff like an electronic press kit for Episode 2, you know, we've got stuff to show. I just haven't had the time to actually get in and record to show it. So hopefully that'll be happening in the near future. If nothing else, expect at least a US solo episode and then a UK solo episode in the near future. And then hopefully the pace will pick back up again for those. But of those videos that actually did go up since our last update, which was on October 25th, or excuse me, August 25th, unless we were jumping ahead in time or something here. We had one for the Star Wars RPG. We had the Star Wars Age of Rebellion Ciphers and Masks RPG Sourcebook review, or overview. For Imperial Assault, we had quite a few things, actually. We took a look first at the Target Initiative's Lab Skirmish Map playmat. It was alright. Then the Tyrants of Lothal Large Expansion, followed by, of course, the different ally and villain packs that were released alongside it, which included Kanan Jarrus and Ezra Bridger, Zeb Orrelios and Sabine Wren, Hondo Ohnaka, and Thrawn, all kind of tied in with that set. Of course, we already had Chopper and Hera previously. We also looked at some new products that were released for Star Wars Legion, including the Han Solo Commander expansion and the Rebel Commandos unit expansion. Then for the X-Wing miniatures game, we looked at Lando's Millennium Falcon. It was actually the first of the X-Wing 2nd Edition or X-Wing 2.0 packages to actually reach me. So we took a look at that. Again, I've got the other ones sitting in there. I want to start recording them. I just have not had the time. But I've got all the individual ships and conversion kits and the new base set sitting in our living room so that I can go through the contents of those in the near future. So expect those within the next month or so. Then we had one episode of Nate's Favorite Deck Building Games to take a very quick look at the DC Deck Building Games new Multiverse playmat that's available within those store kits rather than regular retail or through any particular set. Now, I have actually recorded a video for Buffy the Vampire Slayer's Legendary variant, but I haven't had a chance to edit it yet, but expect that in the very near future as well. I'll be editing that sometime very soon. So, not a whole lot of activity this month. There was some, but mostly it was a product came in. I want to be able to throw the box away and put this stuff away. Do a video and do it now, which is kind of how I feel about the X-Wing stuff that's sitting in there right now. But certainly, you know, we'll be taking more of a look at it in the very near future. As to why, it's that same thing that I've been talking about here for the last several months. The last several months, the thing that you've heard the most from me, if there's a new catchphrase almost for this set of updates, is, "We're having a baby!" Right? Which is just me saying it, throwing out my arms, and always saying it the same way. Well, so on the night of September 6th, I was anxiously awaiting a new arrival. That new arrival was the Spider-Man game for PlayStation 4. right? Which I digitally pre-ordered and could access at midnight that night, as soon as it hit 12 o'clock a.m. Eastern Time on September 7th. So I get the game, and I start playing, and it's about 1 o'clock. And that's right around the time that my wife started to notice, oh, that was an actual contraction. Very, very soon, within a matter of hours after doing the whole timing of contractions, how far apart, how long are they kind of thing, we wound up at the hospital, and sure enough, on September 7th, 2018, Cade Butler was finally born. The child we never expected we'd be able to have, that we prayed that we could have, but with my health issues, and especially hers, that for a long time we didn't think was going to be possible. He's here, he's healthy, it's great, and it's going swimmingly. It's just, it's an amazing thing. I mean, we expected, you know, with all of our health issues, you know, even if the pregnancy goes fine, will he be okay? And, you know, he's great. He's in the best health out of any of the three of us at this point. So, the baby is here. That's, of course, a big life change as she and I are both taking care of him. She's still recovering. That's one of the things they don't tell you about is the long recovery period for a woman after giving birth. So she's recovering. She will be back at work in the near future once they clear her, but it's still a process, a multi-week process. They usually say about 6 weeks to do a checkup, which is about the same amount that leave time for maternity leave often winds up working anyway, so kind of coincides there. You know, it's just kind of a very different life at the moment, in a better way, in a good way, in a great way, but different. Which is sort of changing the way we approach things. Like, you may notice a little bit of a couple of gaps of a few seconds on the new audio commentaries next month from Patreon, because there were a couple of times where I was recording the commentaries with Cade in the room with me, asleep, and there were points where he just made some kind of like random kind of comment. He does what I call the "for the love of God" move, which is this, where he just kind of like randomly throws both arms forward. So it's kind of a "for the love of God" with a kind of sound. So I had to play around with the audio a little bit to make sure it's still lined up, but took out the baby sounds. But it's just made for a less productive month, but I expect that now that we're kind of getting in the swing of things today, by accident, we wound up in a situation where it's kind of like the way it'll be once she's back at work. It's basically me looking after him and doing work at the same time, because I'm not taking leave. I'm still working at the same time since it's primarily from home, and just kind of getting a feel for how that's going to work, which is going to allow things to kind of get back to a regular pace, as I'm finding, you know, the tricks of the trade. Like when they say that they eat, sleep, and poop is pretty much it. Or eat, sleep, and pee, I suppose. Eat, sleep, and diaper changes. You know, they should point out that that's actually a cycle. If you can get them to eat, the next thing they're going to want to do is sleep a lot. And that's when you can be productive. So I want to introduce you here to our special guest. Here he is, our special guest, asleep in a rocker that's not rocking, wearing mittens so he doesn't scratch his face with crazy long baby fingernails. It's little baby Cade. Yes, named after that Cade Skywalker. But yes, baby Cade has arrived. All right, folks, with that, we'll wrap up this monthly update. Thank you very much for your interest in the projects that I work on. Thank you very much for checking out this video, and we'll see more releases in the near future, and hopefully you will still stick around. Thank you all very much for watching.